The wolf swallows Odin, but Vidar, the silent, sets his foot upon the monster's lower jaw. He seizes the other with his hand and thus rends him. Hey everyone, Yoistin here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Midgard. Today we are looking at the history of a rather unsung and typically unspoken about god, Vidar, the Avenger and heir of Odin the Allfather. My friends, thank you all for joining me today. Let's begin our tale on this hero from Norse mythology. Vidar was the son of Odin and Glyde, who actually happened to be a giantess. And ultimately, he was born to eventually avenge Odin. Odin had this foresight that allowed him to know that his death would come by the jaws of Fenrir, the giant wolf that was chained by the gods until Ragnarok unleashed it. Now, Vidar was the god of silence, resilience, and vengeance, as he never spoke. Now, why he never spoke? Perhaps it was symbolic and a part of just his tale, being more restrained and having this quiet purpose in life. Or it could have been that he took some sort of silent vow or something else. But he was purely meant to avenge the leader of the Aesir and the Norse pantheon during Ragnarok, while he is mentioned in other stories, such as silently serving Loki a drink in one time or another. He really was meant for Ragnarok and what came after. So, during the time before the final battle, before he was called to his destiny, he either crafted or was gifted a magical shoe. And it was built over many centuries, from discarded leather scraps given by mortals and gods alike. Now, this symbol of faith in Vidar would eventually come to fruition, but ultimately this shoe was built and made stronger over time. And it became so immense and thick and invulnerable, this magical shoe, and only one shoe, it wasn't two. It was crafted for one act, which we would see him use during Ragnarok. Another thing about this character is that behind Thor, he is stated to be the strongest of the gods, and we will see why here in just a second. Now, if you're more curious about the full story of Ragnarok, I do have a video about that, but as far as Vidar is concerned, again, he is this god of vengeance and silence. So, as Ragnarok begins, the world trembles, and the gods and monsters and so on and so forth all come to battle each other. Odin eventually confronts Fenrir, the giant wolf that he had been afraid of in the past, that he had ensured was chained, and now he knew that fate was upon him. Fenrir would devour Odin, swallowing him whole. Yet, Vidar was made for this purpose, right? It was the whole point behind him being born, was to avenge Odin. So, he strode into battle, and remembering his father, he put his magical shoe into Fenrir's lower jaw, and because of how powerful and strong and dense this shoe was from all of these centuries of almost worship of Vidar from others, from gods and mortals, making his shoe so powerful, it anchored the jaw of this giant wolf to the earth, allowing him, with immense strength, to grip the wolf's upper jaw and tear it asunder. Now, some stories say that he would then drive his sword through Fenrir's heart, and others say that splitting the wolf's jaws was enough to kill it. Or perhaps he does both, but ultimately he does avenge Odin. And during all of this, it's important to remember he doesn't even speak a word. His silence is part of his strength. He only needed his action to declare justice and victory and vengeance. Now, from what I'm able to tell, while he does avenge Odin, and Vidar and Vali both survive Ragnarok and live in Asgard renewed, or Asgard rebuilt, in a land called Idavulur, he was not the heir in terms of ruling the gods. This, I believe, went to more, at least, to his brother Balder, who actually, his death in many ways started the lead up to Ragnarok, but he was brought back, unlike many other gods, and in his resurrection, I believe Balder is more meant to be kind of the central figure of the Norse pantheon going forward after Ragnarok in the New World. But Vidar would stand by his brother's side as this silent guardian, watchful avenger, and so forth. And he would inherit a hall in which to live, being this keeper of silence, strength, resilience, perhaps vengeance as well, or maybe even justice. While that may be mostly what we know of his lore and story from Norse mythology, Vidar is interesting because not only is he kind of in the background of many stories, just one of the Aesir waiting for his most important moment, but there's also something to be said of the stoic silence that he symbolically represents. The fact that he knew when the time came, according to fate, according to his own strength, according to his preparation with his shoe, he would meet the moment and do what was necessary, what was required of him when the time came. There was no need for talking about it beforehand or afterwards. There's no need of boasting or trying to invigorate himself or others by tale of what was to come or what had already happened. He did what was required of him in the time that it came. And that is where we will leave this little video on the lore of Vidar, a rather unspoken of, silent, and vengeful hero in Norse mythology, one who avenged the head of the pantheon himself. My friends, thank you all so much for watching and joining me today. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, share this with a friend, and let me know your thoughts and who else you would like to see me cover in this format in the comments below. And my friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.